Pursuing the perfect body. Many women do it through expensive plastic surgery. But how about if you could get that surgery for a third of the price? It sounds like a great deal, but experts say it can be dangerous and even deadly. Now, 5 on Your Side investigates going under the knife on the cheap. How bad were those scars?
Bad. They were bad.
All her life, Amy Buckner dreamed of being a fashion model. But one day, a car accident changed everything.
I hated what I saw in the mirror.
And plastic surgery was out of her financial reach until she found a solution on, of all places, Facebook.
I heard about a woman who had plastic surgery and came back with a beautiful body, a beautiful face.
Came back from a place in the Caribbean where the cost for surgery was a third of the prices in the U.S. She says it seemed like a dream, but the reality became this.
I want him shut down. I want that entire clinic to be stopped.
It's called plastic surgery tourism. Patients from first world countries flying to second or even third world health facilities for plastic surgery they couldn't otherwise afford. In fact, it's become a major industry in the Dominican Republic, or DR, where a third of patients are from the U.S. or another country. But 5 on Your Side investigates what seems like a bargain could come at a heavy price: your health.
It was a beautiful facility. There was leather couches, amazing, beautiful pictures on the wall.
Amy had just arrived in the city of Santo Domingo at the clinic of Dr. Hector Cabral, who over the phone and without seeing her had agreed to do an eye lift, liposuction, and adding fat to her face and even buttocks, all for a mere $4,800. But on surgery day, Amy says she started to wonder if she'd made a mistake.
While I waited, 6 other women went before me.
Until finally, they called her name and she went in.
I woke up in a room with no air conditioning.
Right away, Amy says she felt very sick, so she flew back to the U.S. for medical help, where she eventually discovered the results of her surgery.
My entire abdomen is completely demolished.
But some say things could have been worse.
I still don't believe this has really happened.
Diane Shields is talking about her daughter, Rasheen. She, too, traveled to Cabral's clinic with her husband, Miguel, by her side. She went into the operating room for a tummy tuck and 2 other procedures. But
the guy they sent to get me, I was asking him if everything went okay.
She didn't come out alive.
He wouldn't answer me. He told me that I have to speak to Dr. Cabral, that he's going to explain everything to me.
Rasheen died, leaving 5 children behind. She was only 38. Days later, Rasheen was returned home to the United States.
Finally, my daughter came out, and she was in a box, a wooden box.
And the worst part?
If he had been in jail, my daughter would be alive.
That's because in 2011, the state of New York arrested Hector Cabral in the States and charged him with multiple felony counts of practicing medicine in the U.S. without a license. The New York Attorney General said Cabral gave consultations to women in nail and beauty salons and, quote, lured unsuspecting patients with bargain prices, putting his own greed before the health and safety of his victims. But instead of sending Cabral to prison, prosecutors struck a plea deal with him that included a fine and community service to be done in his own country, where he returned to continue doing surgeries. And as for Amy?
So what was your first reaction when you saw Amy's torso today?
I felt sorry for her.
We had the president of the St. Louis Association of Plastic Surgeons examine her.
My suspicion is that the scar extends from the skin all the way down to the muscle underneath.
He's Washington University practitioner Dr. Terry McCadden.
I think that she had a really bad experience. And the reality is I think it's going to be a very difficult problem to fix.
A problem, says Dr. McCadden, caused by doing her liposuction too aggressively and too close to the skin.
Is there any way that the results of her liposuction on her torso are acceptable?
Assuming healthy person, I would say no.
So we called Dr. Cabral in the Dominican Republic to get his side of the story. And wouldn't you know?
I'm doing surgery now. Okay, you want to call me in 2 hours or write by email?
I'm
doing
can call
surgery
you
now.
Can you do it? Okay, can you answer a few questions right now?
No, I'm doing surgery now. Please.
answering the phone during surgery.
Suddenly, the phone was handed off to an assistant who told us to call back in 2 hours. But when we called again, Cabral told us to call him in an hour. And despite more calls and emailing, that was the last we heard from Dr. Hector Cabral. In the end, doctors say Amy will have some scarring for the rest of her life. But Amy considers herself blessed.
I'm so thankful to be alive. I am beyond words to be able to sit here right now and tell you my story and to try to save one other person from going through what I went through.
If you want plastic surgery, experts recommend you check out a doctor's training, qualifications, and specialty. And to help you with that, we've posted some resources on our website. Just go to Ksdk.com and look for this story.
From a distance, it looks like a game. You take the money out, and the crooks try to take it away from you with brute force, with handguns, shotguns, even with, as this victim discovered,
I am concerned about my vision returning.
Pepper spray. So what do you do?
Because robbers know it's all just a matter of time. Sit in the right place and wait, and eventually, everybody needs cash.
You never know what's going to happen.
But where it's happened, that's doable. 5 on Your Side Investigates crunched 5 years of City of St. Louis police crimes to find the 5 riskiest spots to withdraw or deposit money. And along for the ride?
You just don't know what anyone's going to do.
Mike Barberi, a longtime security consultant and private investigator. So, in no particular order, first up, this spot in South St. Louis, which had a high concentration of street thefts. 30 of them, including some at ATMs in this South Grand Strip, like this PNC Bank with 2 gunpoint robberies. It has a 24-hour walk-in machine. Our experts take...
You could be right here, hiding right here.
He says the layout makes customers vulnerable.
Guy comes out, come around, take the money, gone.
And not far from there, this Bank of America on the 2600 block of South Jefferson with 2 ATM crimes and where customer Mike Carson says he takes precautions.
So I drive around and go the long way, whatever, and I do a visual of what's going on.
Our next spot? This part of downtown St. Louis, where music mingles with an element of danger. More than 50 street robbery thefts in 5 years, including 3 ATM crimes at this machine at Tucker and Olive.
I don't really see any cameras that are visible.
Something expert Barberi says criminals love.
It would be very easy to, either park over here and watch.
Stalking with an almost certain payoff, according to this local.
They know that you got money. They just seem to take it out of the ATM.
Which brings us to here. Our third danger zone, this area of the riverfront that had 22 street robberies or thefts in 5 years, including 1 ATM robbery at this machine near 100 North Broadway, practically screaming, "Come and get me."
Watch out for yourselves, people.
And 2 more at this ATM on Laclede's Landing. Then there's this area in the Central West End with 25 street thefts in our time period and 3 ATM robberies, including one at this U.S. Bank on North Lindell.
Walk right up in here. The guy's got his hand out. Take the money and run that way.
Our final high-risk hotspot for ATMs is back in South St. Louis, in this shopping district that had 32 street robberies. 1 at this drive-up ATM on Christie. And 3 more at this U.S. Bank on the 3800 block of Gravois. It has a walk-up, a drive-through, and, according to our expert,
easy access, quick escape.
Just what crooks are looking for.
I hope I never be a target.
We tried contacting all of the banks with ATMs appearing in our story. Most of them had no comment. However, Bank of America told us customer safety is its top priority. The bank also provided some common sense safety tips for consumers. You can find those and more on our website, Ksdk.com. Mike Rush, 5 on Your Side Investigates.
Dustin Pendergraph remembers.
It was a huge part of my life.
A boyhood made of standing under blue skies, the crack of the bat, and love of not just a sport, but the sport.
We would always play baseball.
And soon he showed talent at one particular thing, pitching. But as he grew older, so did the pressure to perform.
How many pitches do you think you threw in a game? What's the most?
The most pitches I've probably thrown in a game has probably been close to 150.
Until one day,
It's the 74th pitch, I believe.
his arm just gave out.
Everybody on the field heard it snap.
And that was the beginning of the end for Dustin's career.
Experts say it's an epidemic. Young, talented pitchers being pushed at earlier and earlier ages by themselves, their coaches, even their parents, to win just one more game. The result? Permanent damage to both their arms and any hopes of a career in the sport.
All right, let's scoot your sleeve up and let's take a peek.
I want to succeed. I mean, I'm a competitor. I want to win.
When high school pitcher Nathan Scott felt a twinge in his elbow, he kept quiet and played until
I could barely lift my arm. It was killing me.
So his parents brought him here to Dr. Rick Lehman.
To me, it was a surprise that he did need the surgery.
A special type of operation called Tommy John to repair the ligament that can sometimes break from too much stress. And now, 2 years later.
I've come back stronger than ever.
But often it isn't enough. Dustin had the operation and 2 years of recovery. And
now I go out there and throw it, and it's just pain.
And Lehman says he's seeing younger and younger athletes with these injuries.
If you're having elbow problems at 12 years old, you need to learn to play the piano or the violin because you're not going a long way.
We've never seen the types of injuries we see now.
Which brought us here to Birmingham, Alabama, and the American Sports Medicine Institute,
Pitchers get into this maximum external rotation position,
where Dr. Glenn Fleisig did a groundbreaking biomechanical study of pitching injuries in nearly 500 pitchers.
The ones who had the higher pitch counts and the higher number of pitches for the whole season were the ones with the elbow and shoulder pain.
So what's the solution? Limiting the amount of pitches.
I saw a 15-year-old throw 120 pitches last week.
In fact, the Institute has devised recommendations for children, which some states have considered adopting as law. So that 15-year-old?
I would say that the limit is probably 80.
But here's a funny thing. While pitch counts are used to protect pitchers in college and Major League Baseball, when it comes to the Missouri high school and junior high athletes, they're not. Instead, they're limited on the amount of innings they can pitch, no more than 10. The doctor's reaction?
10 innings in one day would be impressive. That would border on child abuse.
And ask our athlete.
What's your reaction to the current Missouri rule that says no more than 10 innings in one day?
Absolutely ridiculous, especially for kids at such a young age.
So we asked the State High School Activities Association, why not pitch counts? Assistant Executive Director Tim Thompson says they've been considering it.
We all want to protect student athletes. We do not want 13-year-olds having arm surgery.
But it's been 2 years, and there have been delays.
When we do make a rule change like this, it would come from sports medicine and or the baseball advisory committee, and neither one of those committees has come forward with an exact plan.
So Dugas and others say parents have to step up to the plate.
You really have to put your parent hat on, not your fan hat, not your agent hat, not your coach hat. You really got to put your parent hat on and protect your child.
As for Dustin, he tried playing the game in college, but it's pretty much over now.
I miss it a lot.
Now, to keep your child injury-free, we've posted the American Sports Medicine Institute's recommended pitching limits and a link to their app developed by the Institute to keep track of how many pitches your child has thrown. And you can find all of this on our website at ksdk.com. Katie Feltz, 5 on your side.
Yes, changed.
Some people hear birds in their backyard. Judy Studebaker hears trains.
I could get through sometimes a night not being, awakened, but now I can't.
On the tracks just beyond her fence in the Holly Hills neighborhood in South St. Louis, train traffic used to be light. But that all changed a few years ago when she noticed more and more freight trains passing by.
I started paying attention when I counted 130 big black bullet tankers coming through Holly Hills.
Studebaker soon learned that those tankers were filled with oil, but not just any oil, volatile Bakken crude oil.
Normally when they move a hazardous material, they're moving 1, 2, or 3 tank cars. They're not moving 100, 110, 112. These are mile-long cars full of an explosive.
In July of 2013, a train carrying Bakken crude derailed and exploded in a town in Canada's Quebec province, just across the border from Maine. 47 people died. In fact, since 2010, there have been 10 major accidents, from West Virginia to North Dakota. Just last March, just 350 miles from St. Louis, in the town of Galena, Illinois, a train with 103 cars of Bakken crude derailed. The fires went on for days, but fortunately in that instance, no one was hurt.
If we're having, 6, 7, 8, 9 accidents per year, at what point are we going to run out of luck and not have an accident like that occur in a densely populated area?
According to figures from the American Association of Railroads, there were 6,000 rail cars carrying crude in 2007. By 2013, the number was 400,000, an increase of more than 6,500%, and a $66 billion increase in profits for the top 7 railroads. The reason? Fracking, which has created a boom in the production of domestic crude oil.
You've got a huge amount of traffic in the 3rd largest rail hub in the U.S. in St. Louis. Kansas City is the 2nd, and Chicago is the 1st.
Eric Curdy is the administrator of railroads for the Missouri Department of Transportation. He says safety is MoDOT's #1 priority, not just for the Bakken crude, but all hazardous materials.
In Missouri, there's more than 4,000 miles of track, and more material comes through Missouri than all but 3 states. What do you think needs to be done better to protect people?
Well, I think that the first responders is key. So if there is an incident, the folks on the ground, the boots on the ground, know what to do.
But are first responders getting enough information? Do they know when the trains are coming through populated areas and what's on those trains?
No. I mean, to ask me, do I know how many trains are coming through on a daily basis? I'll have to tell you no. I get information on what has passed through the city.
But not what's coming through.
No.
That's not to say there haven't been changes in the wake of all the accidents. Missouri State Senator Joe Kevney is on the Consumer Protection Committee.
Through negotiations and conversations, the railroads have agreed to only transport what they call residual cars through the neighborhoods.
Instead of carrying 30,000 gallons of Bakken crude, residual rail cars contain 3,000 gallons. And the Federal Railroad Administration recently ordered that older tank cars be phased out and replaced with new, thicker, safer ones by the year 2020. But U.S. Senator Dick Durbin says that's not fast enough, and he's sponsoring legislation to speed things up.
What we're trying to make sure of is those that are most vulnerable with railroads going through their community are the highest priority. In our part of the world, in the Midwest, that's almost every major city.
I mean, the unit trains are still coming through it.
Back in Holly Hills, Judy Studebaker and her neighbors formed a group called St. Louis for Safe Trains. Every accident has them pushing harder for change.
If it were to happen anywhere along these tracks in our neighborhood, most of the neighborhood would be gone.
So you've made some headway.
Right.
Are you satisfied?
No, absolutely not. I want to see no trains going through Holly Hills.
In this neighborhood, a little progress is too little.
These trains should not be going through residential neighborhoods.